Hi. Now that you've had your baby and you've had whatever recovery time you're going to have in the hospital, let's talk about, or your home or your birth center, let's talk about what you and your baby and your partner are going to experience the first weeks home. As we start this, Mom, let's talk about you and a very simple rule for recovery. Um, this is really, really important. As far as recovery for you, the slower you can take things for the first few weeks home, the quicker and more full your recovery is going to be in the long run. Some of you are going to feel like, oh my goodness, I really need to rest. And some of you are going to feel so normal, it will feel a little bit difficult to slow down and rest. But take a look at this picture here. This is a placenta. And your placenta was attached inside of your uterus. So when you're looking at this circle, the inner circle where it detached, you actually have a wound that large inside of your body that you can't see that needs to heal. So if you think about having like a wound that large on your leg, we would naturally lay around all day with our leg elevated, 100% resting, because we would be able to see the injury and know that our body needed us to rest so it could heal. Well, after you give birth, you really need to rest so your body can heal. A very simple rule of thumb is 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, 5 days near the bed. That means for 5 days, just let everybody cater to you. Get up and go to the bathroom. But if you start the day downstairs, stay downstairs and don't come back upstairs until night. Don't do stairs. Don't just take it as easy as you possibly can. The next 5 days, maybe you're getting up and you're getting some food and you're coming back, or you're going for a short walk and you're coming back, right? And then the next 5 days, you're staying in the same general area, but you're still resting a lot. You're not doing any heavy lifting. You're not doing most of the cleaning or cooking or anything like that. You are mainly just being there with your baby, resting. This is going to help you heal faster, heal more fully. It will help your stitches heal if you have any stitches, and help your pelvic floor have time to kind of everything knit back together before you're putting tons of pressure, moving around, doing all the normal activity in your normal day. All right, let's talk about the other thing you're going to be spending a lot of time doing, which is nursing. In the first weeks after you have your baby, most babies are really going to want to eat every 1.5 to 3 hours. Most babies, when you get home that first week, are really going to be closer to that 1.5 time. And then by the time you get to 3-4 weeks, you can really space those out to every 3 hours more consistently. But the more time that you have that unlimited skin to skin time, even at home, outside of the hospital, the easier that breastfeeding relationship is going to be. Most babies should be getting about 2 to 3 ounces with every meal. If you are feeding with a bottle, that's pretty easy to tell. If you are breastfeeding, there's more of a, you just have to pay close attention to see if your baby's getting enough food. Typically, if they're having wet diapers during the day, they're probably getting enough food. It's totally normal for babies to lose up to 10% of their body weight that first week, but they shouldn't be losing any more, and then they should be gaining back the following weeks. Now, the great news is that after that first week, it does get easier. You do get to space out your feedings a little bit. Your nipples heal. Everything kind of, that newborn haze really, really starts to go away. You get to come out of it after those first few weeks home. All right, so I wanted to give you a sample schedule. Now, you can definitely be very flexible with this. It's not a schedule that you need to necessarily stick to, But I wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like to be with a newborn. They are going to be eating a lot and sleeping a lot. And you basically just repeat that eat, sleep pattern. They may have one time, often it's during the night, where they are awake a lot more. But very, very commonly during the day, you're just going to be nursing a lot. All right, so you have this if you need it. And as I said, be flexible with it. As far as knowing when your baby is hungry, recognizing their early hunger cues is going to help you not have a really fussy and grumpy baby at home. If you're waiting until your baby is crying to feed them, there's a good chance that they're getting over hungry and then they're getting a little bit more grumpy and more unmanageable than if you notice some of these early cues. Licking lips, turning their heads toward the nipple, just turning their head a lot, starting to suck on things or smack their lips, and putting their hands to their mouth. If they start chewing on their hands, that's a really good sign that they are about ready to eat. Now, at night, most babies are going to wake up every 2 to 3 hours in the night to eat and be held. I know it's really time consuming and it is really hard to be up that much with your baby. But remember, you are also supposed to be in bed for that full 15 days too. So you can sleep when the baby sleeps, or at least try to rest when the baby's resting. And you're not trying to juggle a lot of activities. If you plan for your postpartum and plan to be able to be down for those days, then when your feeding is really well established, you can extend the night feeding pretty simply, and it will be a much easier process if you slowed down in the beginning and took this time to really get things right and get the strong foundation laid. Just a couple really common tips for the first weeks home is that some babies really just want to be held pretty much all the time. That's normal and okay. Soak in the snuggles as much as you can. Take turns holding the baby, take turns sleeping. And then when you need sleep, try swaddling your baby up and laying them on their back in their crib, apart from you. Also, with a newborn, when we're talking about a feeding session, most times babies will need to nurse about 20 to 45 minutes. And they're often so sleepy. So if you can keep your newborn awake while they're eating, you can really condense that closer to the 20 minutes. If they're like nursing and then falling asleep and nursing and falling asleep, you're going to be looking at feeding sessions that take 45 minutes on each side. And again, they need to begin a feeding every 1.5 to 2 to 3 hours, depending on where you are in this first 3 weeks. So it can begin to feel like you just finished nursing and now you have to start again. So the more you can keep them up so that they can condense that feeding and get a full meal at a time, the more you're going to be able to put them down and to have them sleep so that you can move around and do the things that you want as you're trying to go back into your normal life. Now, some moms ask me, which side should I nurse on? The truth is you just want to be most babies will want to nurse on both sides with each feeding, typically 15 or 20 minutes on each side. Basically what you'll do is you will let your baby feed on one side until they stop sucking and their hands are no longer fisted. You'll see when they're hungry, they kind of eat like this and then they get really relaxed. And then you can unlatch them if they are still latched, burp them, and then move them to the other side. And again, you're just going to continue to feed them until they stop feeding at the second breast. And then after that, the next time you feed them, just do it the opposite direction. One really easy trick is to wear like an elastic, like something like this on your wrist. And then when you finish on a side, you just switch it over so you know okay, I start on this side this time, and then the next feeding you move it over so you know to start on this side. And some babies like to do what's called the cluster feeding. I just want to give you a heads up about this because it can feel very frustrating at first, which is that often in the evening they will go through 1 to 3 hours where they just like to nurse, and all their they get hungry every time you unlatch them, basically. Really, the only thing you can do is settle in and snuggle them. It does not last that long where they have cluster feeds in the evenings if you are encouraging that good feed, keeping them awake. But again, these first couple weeks at home, the more you can indulge them with this time, the better. All right. So I just want to point out a couple really cool milestones with breastfeeding so that you don't have to worry about it being this hard forever, right? So for most moms, it will take about a day or two for your milk to come in. Before that, you'll have a really rich and thick milk called colostrum that is incredibly nutritious. And then after 1 or 2 days, you'll feel your breasts will get really, really full, and you'll have more of the milk that looks a lot more like the milk that we drink. It's normal for your breasts to be sore and tender the first couple weeks of nursing. They should not crack. They should not be bleeding. You should not be in excruciating pain the whole time you're nursing. So for example, if you latch your baby and you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. That's pretty normal the first couple weeks. Your baby's figuring out their latch, and I encourage you to be picky about making them learn to latch correctly. And you're also using your breast to feed your baby for the first time, maybe in a long time, or maybe for the first time ever. So it is normal to have some discomfort. You should not have pain the whole feeding. If you're nursing your baby and you are so tense that you're like rocking back and forth, please, please, please call a lactation consultant and get some help, because you should not have intense pain while you're nursing. And by the end of the first 2 weeks, by the time you reach this end of this 5 to 10, 15 days, that you should really feel like your baby can latch really easily, that you have no pain at all, and it is super, super simple. By 3 weeks, if your nursing is going really well, your baby will typically fall into a really steady rhythm where they are nursing, they're awake for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then they go back to sleep. If you encourage that eat, play, sleep routine, typically they will naturally fall into a pretty predictable rhythm, and you can begin to extend those night feedings. So really you only have the first 3 weeks where you are just constantly nursing and overwhelmed by how much attention your baby, how much your baby constantly needs to be held to you. Things do space out, and it does get easier. And you come out of that newborn haze, that newborn beautiful, snuggly, cozy, relaxing time at about 3 weeks. So give yourself that time to just bond as a family. Be still, be quiet, pick out your favorite movies, watch your new shows, play video games, whatever you need to stay at home, in bed, resting and bonding and nursing and getting the strong foundation laid so that you can have more freedom and more health and more enjoyment of your life going forwards, because you've taken the time to lay the strong foundation. All right, if you have any more questions, I know this is a very simple overview of the first 3 weeks, so I wanted to give you the most important points. If you do have more specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out in our group, and of course let me know what they are. I'm happy to help you troubleshoot if you need help these first few weeks. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you in the next videos.